Thank you, Lasker Hirler. Welcome, Minister, for the second time in a couple of days. The protection outlined in the criminal law, sexual offences and human trafficking bill are both, the protections rather, are both important and long overdue. Our laws must develop to accommodate the intricacies of modern crime while also ensuring the safety and dignity of all citizens. This law represents a critical step in that direction. One of the most significant elements of the measure is the increased anonymity of both victims and defendants during sexual assault prosecutions. By barring the public from the courtroom, we provide a safer environment for victims to relate their story without fear of exposure or further pain. This protection is critical for encouraging more victims to come forward, knowing that their privacy would be maintained throughout the legal process. In addition, the measures grant victims the right to separate legal representation and legal aid in certain cases. This clause acknowledges the unique and often overwhelming obstacles that survivors of sexual assault and exploitation, same thing, encounter. Legal representation ensures that their views are heard and their rights are safeguarded, giving them the assistance they require to navigate the complexity of the legal system. Another important aspect of this bill is a modification to the definition of rape, which focuses on the mental component of the act. By defining rape as non-consensual intercourse in which the perpetrator does not believe the victim consents, we link our legal definitions with a more accurate and just understanding of assent. This change is vital in holding offenders accountable and providing justice for victims. Another significant component of this legislation is the creation of a legislative national referral mechanism, NRM, for victims of human trafficking. Human trafficking is a horrible crime that necessitates a comprehensive and effective response. By formalising the NRM, we ensure that victims receive prompt and appropriate support, allowing them to escape exploitation and restore their lives. Furthermore, this bill gives effect to the second optional proposal to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which addresses child trafficking, prostitution and pornography. This ratification is more than simply a symbolic gesture. It represents a commitment to maintaining the highest standards of child protection and international human rights. The change to the Defence Act of 1954, which requires that acts committed within the state by personnel subject to military law be addressed by civilian tribunals and by the Guardian, provides much needed transparency and accountability. It emphasises that no one is above the law, regardless of status or position. This measure also requires that character evidence presented at sentencing hearing be made under oath or by affidavit. This policy intended to avoid the misuse of character reference and ensure that sentencing judgments are based on accurate and reliable information. I would have anecdotal evidence to support the importance of that. I think the Minister and my very distinguished legal colleague, my very distinguished colleague, who's also a distinguished lawyer, Senator Ward, would know of this. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence of a misuse of that process. I feel that the measure might be reinforced further by requiring required training for health. Now, this is a part that I have a particularly strong interest in, Minister. I feel that measure might be reinforced further by requiring required training for healthcare workers in detecting and assisting victims of human trafficking. According to Dr. Annette Kennedy, who is the chairwoman or chairperson of the Health and Social Care Education and Human Trafficking Group, and if you like, co-chairs or works with a colleague there, Dr. Anne-Marie Ryan, who's a very distinguished academic. Both of them began as nurses in the Richmond Hospital and have really serious practical information in this area, and they're giving this back to society. The group is excellent. Group, and not too long I was able to facilitate. I personally invited them to the AV room. They did a presentation there, and it was a wonderful occasion. And Many people lack the requisite skills to identify indicators of trafficking and provide proper assistance. Incorporating the Department of Health and further on higher education within the bill would ensure comprehensive education and interagency coordination, potentially saving lives. And Minister, please bring this to Cabinet for consideration and to all the relevant stakeholders. By educating our healthcare workers, we can greatly enhance our response to human trafficking and guarantee that victims receive the assistance they require. The data is clear. A significant number of trafficking victims connect with healthcare services while in captivity, but they stay undetected even through that process. Implementing these educational approaches during training of the nurses is an important, and the social care workers, an important step towards modernising our approach to preventing human trafficking. It's good that the offence of obtaining a child for sexual exploitation or etc. can be, when that happens outside the country, can be prosecuted in the country, and that's an important reform. I also note the point made by Senator Ward, and we all are aware of it, that we're listed in US reports as not very proficient here, and hopefully this will change that. So in conclusion, my last word is I welcome the legislation. I'd like you to look seriously, Minister, at the issue, and I'd be interested in your response. The issue of the education of health and social care workers to know and recognise victims and report them immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much.